Around this time, there was a popular YouTube channel that close friends of mine really did not like. My friend's partner used to work for this channel, and they were regularly telling me about these horrible experiences.
Are we doing super megs now, dude?
That they were having working with this channel. Now, just to remind everyone, this video is about me and my internet journey, so I'm doing my best to avoid identifying anyone in this video because I do not feel like anyone involved in this story deserves to have it brought up again.
I mean, they might, but I appreciate the sentiment because this is going to be super mega, I think. I appreciate the sentiment that he's like, hey, this is just about telling my story. I really don't want to get involved in the drama, but I want to talk it out.
Not to mention that I also had a personal relationship with these people, so there was obviously a bias in my stance.
There was a bias, and I do feel like this person was very young when they made their video, because when you listen to the allegations, you know, and when you hear allegations, you understand that they're coming from like an individual source. You know, I know it sounds silly, but they're going to be much more charitable to themselves than the other party, obviously, because a lot of times when people talk, they don't communicate facts, they communicate the feelings that they felt. So facts get distorted. Like, let's say you have an ex and you guys had a fight one day, and in that fight, like, you felt really horrible. Maybe you were having a bad day and there was like a collective, collective stress. They may have like gotten stern with you, but you might have said they screamed in my face, right? Because that's how you felt. And so that's another one of the problems too, that people need to be careful. And people need to keep that in mind when allegations are getting pushed out there, because like people don't communicate facts in a lot of instances. And it's understandable. Like, we're not purely factual creatures. We're fucking people.
Any sort of credit or truth that I was giving to these guys meant that I was turning my back on a close friend of mine. And so I was not willing to publicly give any credit to the enemy.
Sure, I get that. I understand that, especially since it seems like they've kind of built up this idea or this history. They communicated history to me that they would be involved in certain TikTok controversies where they would say things and they would get a lot of positive affirmations, even if some of the things that they did might have been shitty or a little bit maybe not necessarily, you know, as accurate. So you kind of get into this field of like, okay, you said something and nobody likes to be wrong, and then on top of that, then you get feedback every time you have a controversy where people give you validation even if you're not necessarily correct, and it kind of just builds up into, it's just like very unproductive thing.
I refused to look at any of the comments or see what people were saying, and I just claimed that it was fans of this YouTube channel that were upset that I was calling them out and that I was on their favorite YouTubers.
Yeah, and that kind of makes sense too. When you exist in a more divisive space, you're going to get feedback from people that's going to be like ridiculous, and it can get very easy to decide that all feedback is ridiculous, especially when the feedback is disproportionate, always on the internet, even when you're in the wrong. And so I think that there's just so many different elements into this that, you know, I understand why you'd feel a particular way about it.